ourselves somewhat, and we still yet can hear with quite a degree of clarity that we're figuring out what it is, that's our part in this. You see, I'm talking about myself and ours, but actually I realise something's going on here, and I said the whole thing for this person's benefit because I'm pacing what's going on in this person's mind. The other thing that I think that would have been good to do with this man would be really to find out what his considerations are. What are the kinds of things that you've been considering?
Maybe he doesn't want it. Maybe he wishes the pregnancy didn't happen because he's wanting to withdraw.
Well, I had the feeling
he wants it to be a big part of it.
I had the feeling that he's usually dissociated. Right.
Okay, so he can still yet be dissociated. However, there's a need to get at what are the considerations. Because I'll bet Dave does this every time he goes in to figure out to sell a cash register, and he's finding out what the person wants, and then he's just handing that to them on a platter. And it's the very first thing that his major task is, totally find out what this person wants, and then what do I have that can fit that, before he's saying, well, I think you should have this, or what about this, or what about that. He's totally figuring out what the person wants. Sometimes maybe he's also educating the person sometimes too. Maybe they don't know what they want, But anyway, good idea to engage the person truly with stuff, actually, not something that's just surface, how are you today, and isn't it wonderful outside, and all of these things, but actually what are your considerations in this process, and how comfortable are you feeling about this,
He was feeling so uncomfortable.
Yeah. So then somebody this morning realised that someone was feeling a little discomfort about something. Somebody I was talking to. Was it you, Penny? And that's right. Penny said that she was interviewing someone for a job. Realised the person really was feeling kind of nervous about the whole interview, and so Penny Penny paced the person and said, I remember a time in the past where I was going for an interview, and I'm wondering, are you feeling a little nervous? Because I remember myself how it was actually, in this process of even when I was interviewing for this job, pacing the person's experience, right? But talking about herself totally, okay? So you have the ability to pace what's happening in a person, because if the person's like nervous and fidgeting, or they're totally kind of down here in themselves, you have to pace that, because otherwise you've not got rapport with the person. You've missed out.
Yeah, I really felt like I missed out, even though I had tried to bring him out of himself. He was so into himself.
Okay, so when you try to bring a person out of himself and that's not working, that's feedback.
Yeah.
So then work with the person inside. And that can be just as fine. Yeah. As a matter of fact, if he's inside, it's more likely he's kind of connected to the part that you're interested in working through. Because otherwise, if he was his regular self, he might not quite get to, that part that's generating the stuff underneath. And when he was here, he truly was with that, I say.
How would you suggest to work with him while he's inside of himself?
By saying that sometimes I know that the Father has considerations that he's considering about how this process will be. And am I the midwife that you are choosing? And what kinds of considerations do you have about this? See, you don't have to do anything with the person at the time. You can be setting things up for the next time. You can be saying, at there are moments when we mention things, in fact, that you're considering that, are things that you would enjoy talking about, the next time we meet. See? So you're allowing for the possibility that you may talk about it now, and certainly it's possible that this is something you can talk about later on. So you're future pacing it later on to be, and also giving this person a way out. But anyway, it's good to deal with. When you see something that's there, that's better off dealing with it, pacing it rather than avoiding it. Okay, because you'll have rapport more than likely by pacing it. Okay. What would happen if Penny was with somebody and this person really was kind of nervous, and that Penny never kind of mentioned anything about, her nervousness, or work with that, what do you suppose would happen?
It wouldn't be in rapport.
Yes, there's a possibility that this person would stay nervous, and that this person would not be feeling rapport. Right. So we gain rapport with each other when we're having the ability to recognise totally what it is. That's the emotion, that's the thought, that's the consideration that the person's feeling. That's very powerful. I was with someone in Denver, an older gentleman, and I said to him, "You've been thinking about what you're going to do when you retire." And he went, "How did you know that?" It's very good that you think of the life cycle that someone's in, and that you become that person totally, because we gain information that enables us then to really have credence, with the person. Okay. Anyway, so pacing is the learning, that we make sure that you have the ability to pace the thing that's happening out there.
And
what happens if someone's really feeling mad? What do?
Stay resourceful.
Yeah, acknowledge their anger.
Maybe you could acknowledge.
Excellent. Excellent. So that you would want to acknowledge a person's anger, that you say, I see that you're not feeling so well about this. You're using the language of peace, not so well about this. Or, I'm seeing that you're feeling a little angry about, if you know what it's about, and then what that is, rather than saying this. And then the person says, "Yeah, you're damn right." And so then you say, "How do you feel about feeling angry?" So how do you feel about feeling angry? The person's got to go, if this has ever happened to you, boy, it's very powerful, because you're feeling like... And then somebody said, "Well, how do you feel about feeling that?" So now what you have to do?
Right.
Yes, you've got to go out here, kind of, how do you feel about feeling that, So to answer the question, person needs to pop out of that to kind of deal with it. Okay, so that's a technique that Virginia Satir used to use. She just used to do it, not knowing what it was in fact she was doing, but it just kind of, this would be intuitively something she was doing, and then we watched what she was doing, because she was amazing. She was absolutely amazing in her ability, to just pop someone from something that was kind of getting really like that, and she could just pop this person. And so when we studied, modelled what she was doing, that's what we found out. That was what was occurring. Okay.
It seemed like that would be a good strategy for moving out of plenty of stuck states.
Yes, with self. Yes. Or with anything, in fact. Having the ability to get a larger picture of something rather than, that's something else actually that we can you hold that for a second, Jen? Just going back to Richard's this morning about feeling a little bit in the funk, and feeling and actually feeling the funk was actually talking to himself a little bit and feeling, which is very close, okay? The auditory self is, it's more difficult to dissociate from the auditory, right? How do you get distance? You can get distance in auditory, like by fading something away, like as a jet fades off into the distance. Right? I mean, you can do things with sound that way, okay, but mostly we're very close to things when we're hearing and when we're feeling. And what Richard did was he went into his visual system, which enabled him to get some distance. Because that's the major way we do this actually. So the visual system is very important to dissociate away from something. Often it's the visual system where this is done. That's why it's so important. And mostly when someone's in a stuck state, they're really kind of in their kinesthetic feeling, which is like, it's more difficult to get out of something that way. The best way to do, the strongest way to do this is actually to step out and kind of see it visually somewhat.
So this guy seemed to be feeling intimidated. But you can't. If you say, "Well, are you feeling intimidated?" That would make them feel more intimidated, wouldn't it?
you maybe you could I recall a time when I was doing a intro with another couple, and the husband.
Yes. Okay. So that's one way to deal with this. The way to deal with this is, I think, is not to approach the person like that with what they're doing. because then that's a possibility of leading to confrontation.
You said
The best way to do it is to do a little bit of something that's isomorphic, or just totally ask the person what are their considerations.
So I have a question for Dee. Did the woman say, would you invite him in or something, or did you just hear he wants to have a big part in this, so you just went out and invited him in?
Well, he was, from what she said, it sounded like he wanted to be there and be a part of it, but he wasn't sure if it was his place to.
he had a belief system that maybe didn't allow.
He probably really does have a major belief system happening here, which might not be helpful. Okay, in the long run, it has a consequence at the moment, possibly that's adaptive. However, it doesn't seem as if it's conducive to something that's ideal. What's ideal is the two people really working together and helping each other. Okay. Anything else with that, Dee?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that what I heard from what Penny had done and what that consideration, that when we look at our own meta programs of what we value, and if you value a person, if this is for some reason not a valued state, then
Hunched over.
yeah, if this bending over.
If hunched over can be a valued state.
Right, but if then a person, in this sense, Deanne maybe is kind of like you, have a meta program, or you're thinking, boy, it would be much better if this person were up here like this, then you're like expending energy wanting to create that state, when actually if we can drop our value.
And just ignore him?
Not ignore him, but see what David said is that you could actually
About the
say,
fellow who was reading, just coming to the session, just
you
kind
could
of
say to
reading
a
his book,
person,
allow
to
it to be.
someone, and you said also that the first visit often takes 3 hours. Well, maybe you value thinking that first visit's going to be real long and everybody's really going to get into real deep rapport. You could maybe realize this couple, the most maybe they're going to be able to be here is 30 or 40 minutes, you could just tell. And you could say, well, a lot of people after they come the first time, they have some considerations that they need to go home and talk about, and we can come back next week and talk some more.
If you figure that that's the way it's going to be.
Whatever. And then Penny with this person that was nervous, because she was able to, maybe it'd be wonderful if people weren't nervous when they came in for interviews, so you could get right to the heart of who they are. But if they are, you have to let go of your value of what nervous means and then work with that. It's like if we are holding on to our values and our set values, then we're having to work maybe those people into our model, when really if we could just kind of open it up and talk to him while he's like this by talking to his wife, then it's like you can kind of continue to play.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what I was feeling is that if I didn't talk to him directly, he would walk out of there thinking that he was being totally ignored. And so,
If you spoke him directly?
if I didn't speak to him directly. So, in my attempts to do that, then it would just bring him up for a brief second and he'd be right down.
So maybe she was actually, when she was ignoring him, she was actually reaffirming his belief system, and she was more in rapport than when she continued to elicit something from him.
Yeah, well, I think he was where he wanted to be. And probably allowed him to be whatever. Maybe so. I mean, how do you know that until after hindsight's so great?
Well, one thing I know is that Dee did what she could, and so that he's feeling okay about Dee. He's not feeling that she ignored him or anything like that. So you did take care of that. I would say the questions that you posed to him were not questions that were soul-searching about bringing things through things. So the question really would be, I'm really wanting to know what your concerns are, because I'm not going to tell you this, but I'm really thinking that you've got some concerns going on here. It's going to be difficult for us to move forward, or it'll be easy for us to move forward if we can move through this.
Because she talked to his unconscious while he was down here. I feel like as this birth happens later, because he's not wanting it now, that you're going to feel wonderful about the way that I'm going to handle helping your wife. Just talking to his subconscious since he was down here without...
No, you've got to deal directly with what's going on with him. It may be that he's thinking, oh my God, this is a midwife. This is, I was thinking that the both would be actually in a hospital or something with all the gadgets, pipes and like chrome and everything, whereas all this, and here we are just kind of sitting, on the floor or something or whatever. He really had some considerations and needed to be, they need to be addressed. That's all. And there's no getting around that, I think,
Yeah, I think they're just considering watching TV and floating it up.
All right, okay. So do you think that we've got some things that you can be doing with that? Yeah, okay. All right. So the one thing that I sense in all of this, which is a set, is to do with being more of a sense of expanded sense of self as far as how you feel the whole process can be. Realising sometimes it's real elegant and other times it's kind of a little bit more messy, and that's okay that you can be smiling through the whole process and that you have the ability to pace what's happening and give alternatives, so that each alternative, whatever the alternative, is going to lead toward being successful. Okay. So far we've got to a place that's something that you would do rather than being like jovial and resourceful when somebody's sort of not so in a resourceful state. The first thing that we've got to is that there's a need for a little bit of pacing, not like going overboard with it, but for the pacing to be a little bit subtle, that you will like the person. Now we need to go beyond this now, okay? Actually to the solution.
That's first. If they're angry, you should move to their side. Don't stand in front of them, confront them. Move to their side and want to pour with them, even if they're angry.
Yes, well, mostly anything that you do, it has to be done subtly, not anything that's like premeditated, like, oh, we're going to go over here. Okay, so you'll be doing things with analog to be in rapport with the person as much as you can.
You're concerned about their well-being.
Yeah, yes, all right. The thing that you need to go to, I sense in your head, when somebody is mad as hell...
You need to take on the anger. Put yourself in their shoes.
Yes, not take on the anger necessarily, but absolutely what Penny's saying, you absolutely need to be in that person's shoes and sense what is it that the person wants. Because if you're with that anger and that you're pacing that, it's not going to be as elegant as it will be if you have the ability to go in and figure out what is it that the person wants.
Isn't anger usually pain displayed in the easier way?
Anger is involving aversion and pain and all of that, yeah. Mostly it's a strategy that the person has developed and that something has occurred that's led to this. And the fixing of it is not, dealing with it here, but going back, just figuring out what is it that happened that led to this, actually.
And even before all that, for me to be resourceful enough to be flexible, to not feel that they're angry at me personally, but to
Okay, so you usually would feel that they're angry at you personally.
At first, yeah.
Okay, so now we need to, each of us, rise above this level.
Right. That's
now, if you're going to be more sage, right, you absolutely need to rise above this level of self-worth to being a thing. Because even when someone's really having a go at you, if you allow that to be actually, this is about my self-worth, you're already at that level yourself. You see, it has to be that you have your self-worth. It doesn't matter what this person's saying to you, because that's not where this whole thing is at anyway. This has got not to do with this person telling me that I'm a worthless shit or something like that. That doesn't have anything to do with it, actually. This is just distractive material. That's what it is. It's distractive. Right? Because really the thing itself is, what is it that's happening inside? What is it that the person actually wants? But you can be real elegant if you can go to that place first. Really. You'll really short circuit, lots of yelling and all kinds of things actually by doing that. And that's very important that you have the ability to do that. That you become the other person. That would be the only way that you can actually pace them. Because if you become the other person with sensing what the person wants and that you can pace the anger and link it back to kind of what the person's actually wanting, you're more likely to be successful. Always, whenever you are successful, that's what you've done mostly.
It's a more streamlined.
Yeah.
What about a person, who has a need to be angry? They're finding a reason to be angry and getting upset. you work with them the same way?
Because it's not the need to be angry. Okay, it's what is it that's happening in this person's life? That person's not feeling so satisfied about things actually. And what is it that we can do to create a sense of more fulfillment? Because it's possibly the way somebody's thinking about something actually that leads them into a corner. It's always the case. That is always the case. You think back, whenever you've been angry, it's generally been because of the way you thought about something, and actually there has been another way to think about it. Because when finally, you're relaxed about the whole thing, it is because you've thought about it in another way. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. I was having one of my fits yesterday on the phone, and the person on the other end kept saying, "Damn it, don't be so pissed off, don't be so pissed off, don't be so pissed off." And the more she would say that,
yes, the more
pissed off I was getting.
Absolutely.
And then finally she said something like, she said, "Damn it, Penny," she said, "I understand how you feel." And just kind of went away, it just kind of seemed like, kind of stupid. But as long as she was saying, "Don't be so pissed off," it's like, I'm pissed off. I don't want to be pissed off.
Okay, so actually, in part of the way that you've got things done is actually from anxiety or involving a degree of anxiety, and you are really becoming more divine and more excellent when you have the abilities that somebody is not sensing that you are becoming pissed off. Sometimes there's an intensity that's there that's not about being pissed off at all, but that the person takes the intensity, actually they think that you're pissed off when actually that you're not. It doesn't matter what you're doing.
Right.
What matters is what the response is that you're getting back. So if there's a way to be smooth about things, we're better off being that way, so that there's hardly anything really that riles you. There's hardly anything at all that riles you. If people sense you that way, then they're going to be coming to Penny because you'll have a gift, and that you really will be like gold to the people that you're around. People really will sense this about you, and you'll always, Penny, have paced and stalked that in the people that are talking with you. There will be a quality of the way that people talk to you and what they're deciding to talk to you about. You'll really have paced that to be there in your life.
Equanimity.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Who's next? Who's left to...
Me. Penny. The thing that showed up for me in writing the exercise was how much I like to write, how much I really enjoyed writing, and the strategy that I use when there is fear or a sense or a feeling that I'm lacking information or lacking a resource to accomplish something is laughter. And so I laugh when there's fear or apprehensiveness or,
That's amazing. I've seen you do this many times, actually.
It's a good strategy.
And it seems to work. It stimulates endogenous opiates. The laughter is kind of a little bit like galactic epilepsy. You know what galactic epilepsy is?
No.
Is when somebody is laughing and laughing and laughing, and even like maybe there's a beaver in the water and it just salts its tail and all the other beavers, and then somebody finds something that's so hilarious about that, and they're laughing and laughing and laughing about that, right? So galactic epilepsy is when a person's just laughing at things, things that just happen, and a person finds something very funny about that actually, and they have the ability to laugh about it. Laughter mostly is involving a degree of like whole brain functioning, but certainly it's involving a degree of the left hemisphere involved in the laughter. So it's connecting again the person with the external world by involving the left hemisphere. Okay, so it's doing things like that that's helping the person come more on track again.
It's pretty fast electrical activity, isn't it?
Yes.
To giggle.
And so it's the energy. It's like pumping itself up again a little, so it's doing that too.
That's scholastic epilepsy.
Well, scholastic epilepsy.
It's not a very good word for it.
No, because actually, but it's a phenomenon where electrical excitation is occurring mostly in the left hemisphere, and the person laughs without cause.
Right.
Laughing without cause.
Oh my goodness, it is certainly a general.
They're actually laughing without
Yeah,
Yeah.
You mean they would say, I don't know what I'm laughing at? Or you're looking at them laughing and saying, they're laughing at nothing?
No, it's such a phenomenon where somebody's just laughing, rolling around on the floor, and they just laugh at everything. And everything is very funny to the person. Even like the way somebody comes into the room, something that somebody says or something that somebody's doing, this person's just laughing about.
Galactic laughter.
But what is it that you had some big scientific word for what Roger does? My stepfather, he laughs a lot. And he just always it's kind of like a little high rolling giggle that comes out, and you can place it anywhere. It's like,
yes, that's right.
kind of like this. You can hear him anywhere, know where he is, because it comes out like every 4 or 5 minutes.
Okay, so I know somebody else who was like this too. They were like laughing. Like somebody would say something and this person would
It's like a response. Instead of saying something back, they just laugh. And
so
then say something.
the laughter is actually masking a degree of anxiety possibly that's inside, and this is a way of release of that. So finally when I spoke to this person about this, not Roger, but this other fellow, what I talked about was, is there a possibility that there's a feeling that you have inside of being relaxed, or mostly, and then I shared with this person the story of a friend that I have actually that kind of is laughing and I call it a nervous laughter. But anyway, the main thing was that the person realised that there was some of this occurring for them. Anyway, so they've moved through that incredibly now, and they're much more centred in themselves, and this habit has disappeared.
They laugh in the privacy of their own home.
Oh, that's good. Now they laugh.
But actually, there's a tonal distinction. There's a tonal distinction that actually I was just caught on to, like the difference between. I was thinking there's a real fine line between like a nervous laughter and bringing laughter to an ordinary situation that may not be so funny, but just to bring laughter there. And the difference was tonally like that. The nervous laughter was a little higher and a little more rolling on, and the bringing laughter to the situation, inviting laughter, in fact, was like a deeper, more grounded laugh.
Belly laugh.
Not a belly laugh, but a light, easy, just laugh. Just, kind of a laugh.
Well, along the lines that Penny was talking about was when she was on the ground, there was a lot of laughter. Mm-hmm. Once she got up, laughter kind of changed. There was a little bit more wiser remarks, wise guy remarks happening, and every once in a while a little, the start of a laughter or something. And that wasn't what motivated her once she was, or that wasn't what propelled her. It wasn't used to get her up there. And she held back as long as she could. She was the last person when it was really getting dark. And finally she went up. And I was wondering about how, particularly with this group, because for David, he said that he came in order to do the ropes, the high elements, because height had been a problem for him in the past. And I was thinking that's a great way to develop strategy, how he had done that while they're on the ropes as opposed to waiting before.
Yeah.
He did the ropes course very elegantly, very, very easily. Mm-hmm. And yet, you could tell there was some hesitation there.
Okay.
I thought it was interesting. I told Dave that I felt like Penny and David reinforced each other in some way. Some strategy, being able to relate, being rapport, being afraid. I felt like they gave each other courage. Because I noticed Penny went right after David.
We met packed.
Oh, no. No, she didn't. But there was a lot of support between the two of them when they were on the ground. And I noticed when Penny was up doing it, David was very supportive.
Okay, one thing I've noticed about Penny's motivation strategy is auditory external is a motivator for Penny. I've often heard her up there actually go through something herself to motivate herself actually to do something. So I sense that auditory external hearing of voice is a motivator for self.
Yeah. Okay, now you're going to do this.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
So auditory external is a motivator.
Or where she was moving the slowest, I think it was David said, leave the past behind, or leave your history behind. And within 20 seconds, she just walked right across and she'd been there for several minutes.
You can let go of the past, and that was to get her hand off of the that wire over here.
Okay, good idea to use the hand actually that was being used was the left hand.
Right, yeah.
And mostly then that truly is the history actually. Yeah. Okay. All right. What else, Penny? Anything else? Okay. So the major thing actually in the strategy was overcoming fear somewhat through a sense of laughter. Yes.
Also, what I really noticed with Penny up there was it was a great opportunity to go ahead and really feel how scared she could be. You know, it's an opportunity out there to get into what would you do if you were in that state, you know, and to ask for the
What is the
support.
reason why you would want the person to be actively involved than be inhibited?
So that they can feel it right there, so that they can
To
experience
be
it.
unlimited.
Yes, you
To
want.
know the full extent and full range of your emotions so that you're at one with it.
Okay, when you read the vestibular paper the next time, okay, you'll get to a place in the vestibular paper that's talking about actively being involved as opposed to passively resisting. If you passively resist the flow of energy that's occurring, it's like there's an energy that's buttressing another energy that's there, and this creates overload.
Disassociate.
It creates overload. And so literally going into the thing itself, you know, is more actively involved in the process. Like sometimes if somebody's really feeling quite a bit of pain and you ask them to describe that, to go into it, all of a sudden now the pain starts to be lessened. Because actually they've gone into this. Okay. So that actively being involved in something is better than passively resisting.
And that's what I noticed. Penny was actively there on the log and working through, asking for help and talking herself through it. And then she let go and she just went across. She'd done it, and now it's time to go, and she went. And she also, at the end, did have the chance to slow down and to experience it fully. So I thought that was an excellent strategy.
Okay, now let's give quality feedback. Because that's not really adding much now.
Right.
You know, it's just describing what it was that occurred without actually adding anything else. So let's see if there's a way for us to do this because, yes, let's just do it that way. Okay, have we got everyone? All right. Is there anything else that anyone would like to add? When you look at the assignments that was there, is there anything else that you would like to add? Or is there anything that you would like to ask? Because we're going to be breaking for lunch here in a few minutes.
Oh, I saw a really good naturally occurring trance state last night with Catherine and Sparkling's little baby. They were up in our room and the baby was just like totally ripping our things to shreds, you know, like and I was kind of like, how can we harness this energy and, you know, shift it a little. So I thought I was moving like this around the kid, you know, and I kind of picked the kid up then after she'd kind of gotten in the rhythm with me. It was just kind of like moving her just a little bit, like a little bit of vestibular stimulation like this. And the kid just totally was like, like it kind of just hit that trance state and it was kind of like, lost in it for at least 4 or 5 minutes, you know. And then I kind of just like settled her down a little bit, like, you know, down. And then so just kind of was like, into other things. Because I knew that she'd definitely gotten her fill of movement. It was okay to just kind of relax and go into this new. It's also like 11 o'clock at night or something later. I knew the kid could easily just go to sleep or something soon.
Okay.
Naturally occurring trance state. Sort of.
You're very
somewhat
external trance state.
You're very
somewhat shaped by external phenomena.
All right. Okay. So 1:30. Let's come back to
Keep saying that.
Is one person
ready on. Okay, I thought what we'd do is just talk a little about state-dependent memory learning and behaviour and the value of this. The value of it is that there's a need sometimes to actually elicit some experience that the person's already had so that they can work through something, or that you can find out sub-modalities that are involved in something. So you'll want to have a battery of a number of universal experiences that elicit internal responses from people. So for instance, in the trance state, creating trance for instance, a universal certainly would be a trance state would be going somewhere in a car and then finally arriving where you needed to go, and remembering that you had the ability to remember mostly what occurred, but that it seemed to happen very quickly. And so that's a universal experience that everybody's had. That's where a person's possibly been in a trance a little more. Or creating age regression. Of course, the cookie toss, the word cookie is a universal for all of us, reminding us of being smaller and immediately kind of creating a degree of regression. Or you're creating trance, and any time when you create regression, it's possible that you're also creating trance. So that's one way to create trance, is actually to be doing things which create regression. So another universal experience that everybody's had is remembering a moment in the past where you were learning, and you were learning maybe to spell. And of course, if it's true that you're involving a session and you're wanting a person to remember a moment in the past where they're learning, maybe that's very valuable actually. That person's eliciting a moment in the past when they were learning, and that's valuable in this setting of learning. So it might be that you remember, how did you know the difference between a B and an upside down D? And that you remember trying to figure out how you would know the difference between a 9 and an upside down 6. So remembering that moment, in fact, when you were confronted with this being smaller, truly is taking you back to a moment in time where you were maybe 4 or 5. Most people have had the experience of having a first day at school. So that's a universal. Seeing the world upside down, looking at the world upside down through your legs. Most everyone was probably pretty small when they were doing things like that. And I saw, what's your daughter's name? Leanna. Last night. She was like doing this quite a bit actually. She would come and walk over here and then she'd put her head on the floor, which was real easy because she's mostly like got a big head and at this point. So she put her head on the floor and she was kind of looking upside down at things. She was doing all of these things. Of course, remembering the smell of baby powder, or if it was someone who needed to grate with something, remembering the sound of the nails scratching down on a chalkboard. Or driving down the highway late at night and watching the lines pass by. Or remembering a moment in the past where you lost your keys. Yeah, maybe that you're wanting to elicit that experience because there's something that the person's in need of forgetting, and so you have the person remember just out of the blue. Maybe you even know something that the person lost, and so you say, "Oh, remember that moment in the past when you lost your keys? We were searching for them or something." The person remembers having lost their keys. So that you have a whole belt of universal experiences that you know will access some internal desired state. Or actually something that the person's wanting to get into and there isn't any way that they can get into it. Remembering in the past a moment when you were trying to push a door open and it wasn't opening. So there should be a way naturally that you have the ability to elicit responses from people, to find a natural setting where delight occurs, a universal experience. The main thing is that you're able to, in hypnosis, be speaking in a way, in a language, where the person is able to easily attach to their ongoing experience the meaning, so that there's some fluff and there's purposeful ambiguity, because you're wanting the person to become party to the process, and you're wanting the person to fill in the missing blanks and things themselves. So sometimes you'll want to elicit a natural setting where curiosity has occurred, or a sense of playfulness, or a moment in the past where you know for sure this person was resourceful. Mostly, of course, when somebody's shaking your hand, that's like quite a strong anchor of excellence. So finding the natural settings in which to elicit responses, like a sense of floating, or a sense of actually searching for something. So, for instance, you're working with a client and there's a need for them to have a pattern, or have ability to be able to search through something, so that you'll ask them, think back to a moment in the past where you were searching for something, and then maybe you can elicit, like the keys, again, that's a universal one. Most people have probably spent some time searching for their keys. And so then you anchor that feeling of searching, because maybe that's a resource that the person's in need of having. In other words, they might be finding it difficult to move through something, and part of the reason is because they're not really involved much in searching themselves at all. So there's a need to elicit that. Or finding a natural setting in which a response of feeling suspicious. Maybe you're working with a client and you sense that there's something the person's totally, not even looking, they've totally looked over. Something has slipped through and they've totally looked over that. So find the natural setting in which you might elicit suspicion. So the main thing is simply that you have the ability to have under your belt a number of natural settings in which these responses occur that are universals, because you want to be citing something, in fact, that the person has experienced, and so you're searching for a universal. And the reason why is because of this idea that memory, learning and behaviour is state dependent. Everybody understands that now, yes?
These things that you're sharing with us here, these are statements that you were making during the induction?
Possibly, and sometimes, like for instance, let's say the person's really in need of being curious about something, and they don't seem to have this sense of curiosity. Well, then I'm not maybe telling the person everything I'm doing, but you could do this. But I might simply just ask the person, think back to some moment some years ago, or when you were at school. Let's say I'm working with an adolescent. Think back to some moment in the past when you were in the 5th grade, and the person's remembering being in the 5th grade, thinking of something that someone brings to the school. See, now, that might not be at the school, but then they're using somebody bringing something to them that's involving their curiosity, and they're remembering being quite curious about this. So sometimes you're using them in the induction simply because you realise that there's a need for a person to be going through some universals. So for instance, a universal where the person was feeling success, or if it's really something that's involving difficulty for the person, some moment in the past where they really were feeling that the process would be difficult and it turned out to be easy. So whatever it is that you sense is needed, that you have the ability to elicit universals that bring the internal desired response. Because memory, learning and behaviour is state specific, there's a need to elicit the state so that the person can have learning sometimes, or the person can have memory or some other kind of behaviour actually. Are you following this piece? this piece is very important, because if you simply just have this piece, then it can even be enough by itself. Because, for instance, if you want to create trance, then you can ask the person to remember a moment in the past where they were having a lecture and they were feeling quite tired.